Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So, let's see, last week, Battle of Bama coverage. What a great time. Always, it's just, it's fun. If you don't go to big shows and check stuff out like that, you ought to. It's a lot of fun. Just going to hang out, meet new folks, see old friends, check out stuff, get some ideas on some things. It's a good time. Plus, hanging out with a lot of like-minded individuals. So we had a great time on it. Big John did pretty good. Had that rear main start leaking on me. And then right as we got almost home, the very last gas stop, come to find out that the front seal on the transmission's leaking. It's either the front seal or the timing cover. I don't know. I didn't care. I was too tired at that point. So I was like, to heck with this. We're hot footing it home. So hammered down, got home, and I haven't even looked at it. Although I have driven the truck quite a few more times since then. The trip was great. Really had a good time with it. Well, I guess that leads me to the next little disappointing thing. So I get home from the trip and walk into the house. It is a balmy 82 degrees in my house. Yeah, my HVAC took a crap. So it being 20-ish years old, yeah, man, I had to buy a new HVAC unit. Ouch. I don't know if y'all have priced those lately, but oh my God. Wow. Anyways, so that nice unexpected expense. I'm still a little bitter about that expense, by the way. Although the house is very comfortable now. We suffered for almost a week with no air conditioning because I was just like, no, I don't want to believe it's true. I'm going to get quotes from everywhere I can. And yeah, some are way more expensive than others, but they're all friggin' expensive. So that kind of brings me to an unfortunate announcement that I guess I'm going to go ahead and make is, between the HVAC unit, like about a month and a half ago, my refrigerator died. So a couple rather large unexpected expenses coming up. There ain't the money for Power Tour this year, folks. I hate it. I was really geared up for that. I was thinking that was going to be, a really, really good time. I was looking for it. I had a blast with it last year. Was last year, right? Oh, Lord, everything's a blur. Yeah, I had to look at Steve's windshields and go, that was last year, right? Yeah, it was last year. So unfortunately, between all the extra unexpected expenses that I've had to kind of take on now, over the last couple months, I could go if I drove like a little four-banger that got 30 miles a gallon and I stayed in that vehicle the entire time and ate nothing but peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So, yeah. I hate it. It really sucks. I was really hoping this would kind of be, Steve's redemption tour since he kind of let me down there at the end of Power Tour last year. But whatever. We'll make do. No Power Tour, but I still have that week off. I'm still going to be home that whole week. And there may be something getting a lot of attention that week. Maybe something getting some attention that week. Wonder what it could be. I know a lot of y'all are just like me, tired of seeing this damn thing sit in the shop. So I think that's what I'm going to do. The week that I'm off, I think I'm going to try to get as many things done on this Blazer as I possibly can. So first order of business is going to be fixing the rust up here. There's a spot way over there. I'm pointing off camera here. So there's a spot about right there where those little bungees are. And there's a spot like right here that's rusted pretty well. Cut that out, make little patches, get the strikers cut out, get those new pieces welded in. And then I can go through and get this thing scuffed, shot, seam sealed, and then bed lined. And if that's all I get done in that whole week, I'm totally cool with that, because that means that it's all done, and I'll be super happy about that. So then we can move on to other things. But hopefully I can get a few more things done on the Blazer to where it can kind of move around under its own power. And maybe, you know, it can sit outside a little bit, get a little more room in the shop. So that's kind of what the plan is now. That still may change. Like I said, I really want to focus on the Blazer for that week. But that still may change depending on a couple of other things. Maybe. We'll know more as that time comes. So anyhow, yeah, it sucks. I hate it that I'm not going to be doing Power Tour, but yeah, maybe the old Blazer can get a little love, and you know, maybe I can finish this darn thing one day, and then Jackson will have his Blazer, and he can get out and drive it. He'll probably still want to drive Harvey all the time, but he loves that rough old truck. So anyways, enough of all that. Got all the bad news out of the way. Let's go to the good news. Wait, there's not really any good news. The only good news thing that I've got going on today is I figure we're going to work on this big block a little bit more. So we got the crank pretty well ready to go. I got my new rods in. I got the new pistons in. So in order to keep from destroying rods or pistons with my general ignorance of pistons and rods and wrist pins and all that. I mean, I don't know this stuff, folks. I've never I've tore motors down, but I've never put one together. So at least to this degree. So the pistons that I ordered are they can go either or. They can go either floating or press in wrist pins. Just depends on the rod that you're going to get. So I was like, I'm going on a floating wrist pin rods for it. So that's what I did. I figured that way it takes, you know, my ignorance and all that stuff out of play there. So they're factory length, exact same factory style rods. They were cheap. That's why I bought them. I think they're like $250. So like, yeah, pistons and rods, I got like $500 in that, maybe $600. So I figure since I've got all the pieces and parts pretty well done, everything's ready to start putting this motor together. I figure I'll pull the motor back out. It's sitting over here in the corner of shame, just kind of parked there for the meantime. Pull that guy out, pull the bag off of it. I got to pull the heads back off of it. Then I've got to take and hit that guy with the old ball hone. Just kind of freshen the cylinder walls up a little bit. So I got to go through and do that. And then we just got to clean the block up a little bit, make sure it's nice and pretty. Then we can take the crank or put the bearings in it. Then we can take the crank and set the crank in there. And we can start, you know, hitting it with the Plasti-gauge, kind of figure out what our clearance is, make sure that's all within tolerance, and maybe start on the reassembly of this guy. Unfortunately, it's been a pretty busy week. I was extremely tired yesterday. Today's Sunday, so it's kind of a short day. I know I say this a lot, but this is the reality of, you know, working a full-time job and trying to do this every week. So yeah, yesterday I pretty much napped all day. I was exhausted all day long. So I'm out here early Sunday morning, gonna try to get a few things done on this motor. Start it on its way to getting reassembled, and maybe this week, maybe I can get back out here to the shop and get cranking on this guy a little bit more, maybe get a little bit more stuff done to it. So hopefully that way we can have that motor ready to go and ready to drop in, you know, here in another week or two. I say ready to drop in, but the reality of it is I wanted to put that 4L80 I've got sitting back there. I want to put that behind it to put into Steve, which means I need a transmission controller, and I'm also going to need to do a drive shaft, which I have a drive shaft for the 4L80 that just needs to be shortened. More money. Crap. All right, well, that's enough of all that. Future plans, all that fun stuff. So I guess right now what I'm gonna do is I need to get Steve out of here so I can get, you know, have room to maneuver and do. So I guess I'm gonna move Steve out and kind of get everything pulled out and ready to go, and then I'll check back with y'all here in just a couple minutes. All right, so this guy's been bagged up since I got the heads finished up. I just slapped them back on top of the block so they were stored and they're in the bag. Try to keep any type of rust and debris and stuff like that from happening. So I'll pull that back there. They definitely don't get any lighter, that's for sure. All right, got the old ball hone ready to go. Can of WD-40. And then I guess I'll move my little pan out. Maybe I can catch some of this crap so it ain't all over the floor. Keep it from getting all over the floor, hopefully. Doubt it. So all we're gonna do here is soak down the cylinder walls with some WD-40, and then stick this guy in there and just kind of run him. I was told not to run him at full bore, but about half throttle, half speed, and just, you know, 4 or 5 passes, and then check it out, and that should be good. So I guess why don't we take a quick peek at what the cylinders look like prior to, which is not terrible. I mean, these cylinders are not in bad shape. This one's looking a little weird. This one's the bad one. So this one's actually got a little bit of rust in it, but nothing terrible. So those all look about the, you know, pretty good. And then over here, it's not too terribly bad. All right, so just a couple quick passes on this. And you can kind of see that we've got some cross-hatching now actually taking place. So I can figure out a spot for the light here. Only problem that I'm seeing is I have a couple vertical lines. I don't know if they even show up on camera, but I got a couple vertical lines right in here. And then there's a little booger spot a little further on down, right around there. But it's nothing that's catching the fingernail. So nothing's catching the nail. Let's check this back side. Yep, nothing catching the nail, so we're gonna call that good. Moving on. So this guy, so that one turned out pretty good. This guy's got all that weird discoloration to it. And I think that's gonna take a little bit more work, because it kind of knocked the tops off of it, but I don't really have a good crosshatch thing going in here. So we'll hit this one again. Basically, just gonna keep going on this guy until I get that kind of cleaned up a little bit. Plus I got a nasty spot down low where I guess there's like a little bit of a ridge where the piston was sitting. So I figure this cylinder, and then one over there is gonna be the three that are gonna be the most trouble. So this guy's still not coming out. I hate to keep chooching on it, but I think I'm gonna have to. just to try to, because it's got, so each one of these, you can actually feel that, you know, where it's discolored. I don't know if that's from the hot tank, their acid stuff, if it etched into the cylinder walls or not, but I can actually feel each one of those little ridges with my finger. They're not catching anything on my nail, and I would assume, you know, put this thing together, the rings are going to take care of that and clean it on up a little bit for me, but I'd rather not. I'd rather it have a nice clean surface to mount up to. But that actually, it almost feels like it's etched into the cylinder wall. I may have to get a stone. I may have to get a stone out after this. I don't have one of the 3-pronged stones to be able to do that. They take a little bit more material off. This is more for basically buffing. The stones are a little bit more aggressive. So, I mean, I can keep going at this with the dingle ball thing, or I can do stones. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna hit it one more time, and then I'll probably phone a friend, so and see what he thinks. So I'm gonna hit that one more time, and then, like I said, if it's still looking a little rough like that and feeling a little rough, I'll holler at Crook and see what he thinks about it. But I'll hit that one more time, and then we'll just move on. This was probably the worst cylinder, and it cleaned up pretty good. You can kind of still see part of the ring ridge back here. Now, I know the general rule is if it catches with your fingernail, it needs to be taken care of. But this, it's not catching. I can feel it with my finger, and I can feel, you know, right here with my finger as well, but nothing's catching a fingernail. Same thing over here. I can feel it all with my fingers, but I can't catch anything with a nail. There's no, I mean, it's smoothish. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna holler at Crook about that. You know, he knows a lot more than this on this stuff than I do. So I'm gonna holler at him about those 2 cylinders in particular, and we're just gonna move over to the other side. On this side, cylinders are a lot better. That one's got a little booger way on down there, and then this one's my really bad one on this side. So we'll see how these turn out. All right, so these all came out pretty good. Again, that spot down there, right around there, I can feel it with my fingertip just barely, but I'm not grabbing anything with my fingernail. And then this guy, kind of the same, a couple of the darker spots, I can kind of feel it, but I'm not grabbing anything with my fingernail. So, yeah, I'd say these are pretty good for now. Like I said, I was gonna holler at Crook and just be like, yeah, what you think here? So this one cylinder is just like I said, I can't grab anything with my nail, but I can feel it. It's a little weird feeling. So it's not nice and smooth like the other ones. So so I'm gonna holler at him real quick before I continue on, and then I'll be right back. All right, so still waiting on Crook to get back with me on whether or not the cylinders look good enough. I think they'll be all right. Like I said, I can feel it with my fingertip, but it's not catching the nail. I figure the rings will kind of take up what little, you know, slack needs to be taken up there. Worst case, we'll have to come back at it with like a, you know, a 3-prong stone hone. But maybe should have bored it, but we'll see. All right, so I guess at this point it's just kind of clean this engine up a little bit, clean the block up a little bit, get all the crap off of it. You know, stuff that got slung out from, you know, doing the ball hone. So I'll go through here. I'm gonna clean this guy up, get all that stuff kind of sorted out, make sure she's nice and clean, and we'll roll it over, and then we'll make sure that the bottom side's good and clean as well. And then I guess we'll start digging out some bearings and go ahead and at least get the bearings set in place, so that way we can maybe today go through and get the crank set in, and then check our tolerance with the Plasti-gauge. So yeah, I guess that's what we're doing. All right, so got the block cleaned up pretty well. Everything looks pretty good. Still hadn't heard back from Crook on those bores, but we're going to press on just to keep moving. So I've got my my main bearings here, which is part number, these are Molly, MS829H. So these just should be for standard bore or standard, you know, crank bearings. So they come neatly packaged. So let's open these turkeys up. All right, so this big feller is going to go in the bag. But I'll make sure I don't grab and put the wrong one down. All right, so he goes into the bag. I'm not globbing this on here. I'm just putting this a thin coat just so we got a little bit of protection there. When it comes time for the final and full assembly, then yeah, we'll get a little crazy with it. All right, so very, very fine, thin of grease on this guy. In fact, I went back, wiped it down with the rag or a paper towel just to kind of make sure that grease on here is not going to throw off my measurements for the Plasti-gauge. So I guess, and I already cleaned this crank up, shot it with some brake clean, wiped it down real good. So it should be ready to set in there. Yeah. So I guess let's do this. Crank set in place, got the Plasti-gauge. I'm gonna use the red one. This shows that it goes from 0.002 to 0.006. I've also got the green, which goes from 0.001 to 0.003. Honestly, I'm not sure which one to use, which one would be the better one to use in this case. From what I can find online, the tolerance for this guy is supposed to be, hang on, I gotta pull it up, 0.002 to 0.003. So this one has a little bit broader range on the red than it does on this one, on the green. So I think I'm going to use the red because I think it's going to be a little easier to read than it will be on the green. So, all right, so getting started on this. This is the first time I've done anything with this Plasti-gauge stuff. So we're going to open her up a little bit so I can pull some Plasti-gauge out. Maybe. There we go. All right, so from what I was reading and seeing, you basically just put it across it, mark it, and you can break it off and just kind of leave it there. So I'll do that there. Now this is the part that I'm not 100% sure about. Do you do it on every single bearing cap or what? I'm gonna go ahead and do it on all of them just so I can make sure. So with the Plasti-gauge kind of set in place, I went ahead and put the top side of the bearing on the main cap. And we're going to set that down in place. Now as you're, like I haven't cleaned up these caps yet, so as I'm pulling the old bearings out, I'm just wiping down the surface really good so we don't have any trash or any grease or grime or anything down in there still. All right, now I got all the caps on there. We're gonna just run these down, snug them up, and then we'll torque them down to spec. All right, so 110 foot-pounds is what we're supposed to torque the mains on a 4-bolt. So I'll torque them down to 110. Best way to torque them, everything I'm reading, everybody's saying, 3 passes. Do it around 75, 80 the first time around, 100-ish second time around, final pass 110. So we're gonna do it at 80 across all the bolts, then we'll step it up to around 100, probably right at 100, and then we'll move up to 110. So I couldn't find the a pattern. So I know a lot of things you're supposed to torque in a pattern. And I know like on heads, you work in a circle, start from the center, and you work your way out on the heads. I'm gonna kind of follow the same thing here. The only difference is I'm not gonna torque one side and then come over here and torque a side, and then come over here and torque, so I'm just gonna torque the inners all the way across, kind of coming out, and then I'll torque the outers. All right, that's at 80. Let's bump her on up to 100. Do it again. Now to 110. And okay. She was dancing everywhere on me. Don't forget, when you finish with using your torque wrench, run it back to 0 or the stop spot. Don't store it with it, set. All right, so my really long ratchet's locked up in Big John, so I don't have that right now, so I'm gonna have to use my breaker bar to break all these loose. All right. Now that they're all broke loose, I'm gonna save myself some time and get my little ratchet out. Okay, so now the fun part, getting these mains back off, getting these caps off, I guess I should say. Let me grab my mallet. All right, so now we can get these mains knocked out. So you should have a little bit of Plasti-gauge on the bearing and a little bit of Plasti-gauge on the journal as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and knock all these out real fast, and we're going to worry about looking at them on the journal instead of actually on the mains. All right, so if you look on the Plasti-gauge, you've got your, how wide that strip is actually on the journal. Will tell you about what the clearance is on this guy. So what we're aiming for is somewhere between 0.003 and 0.002 is kind of where we're aiming for. So why don't we come over here and take a look? So on this guy, we are pretty much right on 0.003 to 0.02. Yeah, 0.002. These other journals are a little tighter to get into, but we're hitting 0.003 on pretty much all of them, it looks like. Now back here on the rear journal, everything I was saying is you want a little bit more clearance back here. So this guy's coming in at 0.003. So the narrower that the narrower the strip, the tighter the clearance. Am I reading that right? Hang on, I may have that backwards. Sorry. The narrower the strip, the bigger the gap. There we go. Got it right. I had it backwards in my brain. So the narrower narrower the strip, the bigger the gap is. So back here on the rear journal, they were saying you probably want somewhere between 002 and 0.025, because that's where all your oiling's really kind of kicking off at. So you want a little extra cushion back there. And according to this guy, we are at 0.003, roughly 0.003, 0.0. We're definitely too wide at the 0.002, so we're in between the 0.003, 0.002, be about a 0.025. The rest of these guys we're hanging out pretty solid at around a 0.002, which is kind of where we want to be. Yeah. So yeah, 0.002 is kind of where we want to be on those. And I'll verify that real quick. There's been a lot of numbers floating around today. Let me pull that back up. Yeah, so 0.002 to 0.003 for your mains. At least that's what I'm seeing in different places on the web. 0.002, 0.003 for the mains. We're pretty good there. We got a 0.25 on the rear, which is fine. Next will be doing the rod bearings. We're not going to do those today. Rod bearings will be something we'll do a little bit later on, probably later in the week, hopefully, where I can get the rings on the pistons, get the pistons assembled, ready to go, get the rods and everything ready to go on the rods and pistons, and then that way we can just kind of slide them into place. So now that that has been taken care of, what we need to do now, I guess you just go back and wipe the Plasti-gauge stuff off. I would imagine you don't want that floating around in there. So, yeah, so I'll get a little brake clean on a rag, wipe that off, and then we'll throw some assembly lube. Maybe pull the crank back out, give this thing a good dollop of assembly lube across all the bearings, get everything reseated, torque back down. That way the crank's in, crank's done. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call it a day, because it's getting late in the day. I still got to edit and get all this stuff out. Like I said at the beginning, it's, running a full-time job and then doing this stuff and trying to get videos out on the regular, it makes it a little difficult sometimes. And to be honest, yesterday I was just so wore out. I needed a day to just rest. So I'll probably work on this maybe tonight. Probably it'll end up being tomorrow before I even do anything here on reassembling the bottom end of this guy. And then we'll get started on getting the getting the pistons and the rods all hooked up, getting those put together, and making all that stuff, you know, where it's ready to get dropped in. I'm still waiting on Crook. I hadn't heard back from him today. He must be busy. No big deal there. So we'll find out a little bit more about those bores, if they're okay. I think they're fine. Like I said, it's nothing that's grabbing a nail. It may be something that, you know, once the pistons get in there and it gets heated up, the rings will kind of, you know, scuff that, you know, clean it up a little bit once they seat and do like they're supposed to. But yeah, so this week I'll get out here. We'll get the crank in, get it, you know, the assembly lube and everything done, get it ready to go. Then we'll get the rods put together and try to get the rods put in, and pretty much repeat the exact same thing with the rods, because we got to check those guys, make sure their clearance is good. So we'll do that with the rods later on this week, and then we'll have the bottom end of the motor assembled. Top end of the motor is just about assembled. At least the heads are done. So we're getting close, getting ready to actually get this guy put together, and have it ready to go in. So anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I do appreciate y'all guys watching. If you like the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting on? Just hit the little button down there. Subscribe. Helps grow the channel, you know, all that fun stuff. So anyways, thank y'all for watching, and I guess we'll see y'all next week. And just remember, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough. We'll talk to y'all later.